A few days ago, I got a chance to check out A Quiet Place Day One. I am a huge fan of the Quiet Place films. I think they are both like personal classics of mine. Even though they're not perfect movies, they suffer a lot in the script. I just think their execution are just fantastic, and its tense atmosphere is something that can only be created in those films just by the fear of noise. I think both of them are incredible, and I was really excited to see this film would bring because John Krasinski didn't direct this one, and they brought in Pig director. I believe his first name is Michael. Don't know the last name. I thought he was a pretty good fit for this film. I think he took this much more down the personal route, like John Krasinski did. Follow Lupita Nyong'o's and Joseph Quinn's character, who are kind of strangers at the beginning, and then kind of create this really close bond within the span of a few days. And it really has that apocalyptic feel that you want out of this, and it brings that tense atmosphere of something world changing is happening right now. And they really establish that well in this film. In all honesty, the idea of this movie isn't something I was 100% on board with because the fact is that, we had that explanation of how this came to be in the first 20 minutes of Quiet Place Part 2. And I honestly thought that was good enough. I didn't really desire any more. I'm not going to complain about this, but I would have honestly just rather had a third film with the characters that we already know. But anyway, we have this movie, and how was it? I really enjoyed it. I don't think I liked it nearly as much as I liked the first two. I think those are completely on different levels in all honesty, but I respected a lot of what this film did and what it did that was the same, and I like what it did that was different. I like how it really felt still like a Quiet Place movie. It didn't reinvent the formula, but at the same time it really did feel like a different voice. I think the biggest thing that actually was an improvement compared to the first two is how it handled the monsters. My nitpicks with the first two is that sometimes the monsters just shown too much. It's a lot of CGI, and sometimes it just doesn't look that great, particularly the second one. In this one, they're hiding in shadows, they're more fearful, and they definitely feel a lot more of a physical threat because the second one, or maybe even the first one, you don't necessarily feel the fear once you find out that they found out the weakness of these monsters. And here, they are monsters lurking in the corners, in the shadows, and we know that they have no clue how to defeat these things. And that's just something I found really smart. Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn are both fantastic in this movie. Their performances are way better than they need to be, considering that their characters are just kind of by the numbers and stuff that we can see coming from a mile away. All the character beats are kind of like this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and that'll happen, and you can kind of see it from the end of the second act of the film, where you can tell exactly how these arcs are gonna wrap up. But Quinn and Nyong'o pull them off so well. I don't even know if I can complain about the characters in all honesty. So I just found a lot of the choices a little predictable. Another small complaint I have is I just don't necessarily love the look of this movie. I don't know if I can put my fingers on it, but I think John Krasinski has a lot of Spielbergian type of effect on his first two films. I haven't seen any other John Krasinski film. Still haven't seen If, but those first two Quiet Place films definitely had this Spielberg type feel to them with, this horror energy infused into it, purposefully muted, but I just don't know if I liked it because there's a lot of gray in this. Honestly, it bothered me a little bit. Some of this color grading just looked a little muddled to me, but at the same time, it didn't look bad. It's just I like the Krasinski look better. There's not too much more I could say without spoiling it. The cat's great. The character arcs are predictable, but I do like how, particularly Lupita Nyong'o's character, is a very unusual kind of main character for this film. But I also really appreciated that about her character. It's not the typical average person in a happy, handy, dandy life that is sucked into the situation. It's honestly probably like the last person you would expect to follow in this film. And honestly, I think that really worked in its favor. Unfortunately, by the time you get to a certain point in the movie, you're just like, this is going to happen because it makes sense of what her character setup is. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed this one. It had a very tense atmosphere that you want out of these films. Although it might have not been as good as the Krasinski films, and maybe I still kind of scratch my head of why we got this movie and not Quiet Place 3. I understand that people really like the first 20 minutes of Quiet Place 2, and people think that's the highlight of the film, but I don't see why people thought we needed a whole movie of it. But I'm not going to complain if we still get Quiet Place 3 because at the end of the day, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm going to give it a 7.9 out of 10. Comment down below what you guys thought of A Quiet Place Day 1, and like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.